Sustainable Development Goals, a critical review. I will be focusing my prepared statements on SDGs 12 and 16, 12 being responsible consumption and production, and 16 peace, justice, and strong institutions. For this presentation, I will not be covering SDGs I feel are being adequately implemented with current strategic plans by the university or larger community of the fake state of Hawaii, but instead I will review areas of opportunity that continue to fail at involving and engaging with the indigenous people of this archipelago. Promoting and ensuring inclusivity of Indigenous peoples in discussions regarding resource management and environmental integrity is important to achieving environmentally sensible management of chemicals and waste, as well as the ecosystemic complexity of interactions between people, land, and water. We need to ensure they are sustained in continuity, which means highlighting the mismanagement of ancestral lands, clearing of entire pu'u, hydraulic spills, and mercury spills, all deemed extremely remote and of no consequence to the surrounding ecosystems, even though the management team has already admitted to the destruction of habitats due to the clearing. What should also be addressed is the long-term effects of abandoned and decommissioned observatories and proper waste disposal. The University of Hawaii Hilo's implementation of the Comprehensive Management Plan is meant to meet short-term and immediate needs for the developer and management agency, which is explicitly stated in its 2010 Management Plan, Implementation and Evaluation publication. And according to this publication, begin quote, this process is designed to ensure participation of relevant entities, end quote, which does not and is not inclusive of Native Hawaiians. But the whole idea of the 2030 Agenda and SDGs is to include Indigenous voices and ensure they're heard prior to development. Furthermore, it is clear in the 2018 Supreme Court holding that the right to free, prior, and informed consent is not one recognized by states nor at the private sector level unless beneficial to the relevant entities who ultimately profit from our compromise and willingness to negotiate away rights. According to Robert T. Coulter, in his analysis of this particular model states, begin quote, when free, prior, informed consent refers to relinquishing and compromising fundamental rights, human rights, it is likely to be a bad thing, even dangerous in the extreme. We should be on high alert for a multitude of possible harms, but instead it seems that free, prior, informed consent is usually treated as a good thing, supposedly beneficial. In fact, he believes that free, prior, informed consent has become the formula for getting around and overcoming the rights of Indigenous peoples. That can open the gates for companies and countries to get a hold of Indigenous lands and resources. As it is used in the UN Declaration, free, prior, informed consent is not a right at all, end quote. It's merely a concept. And because the University of Hawaii has failed to preserve and adequately manage the lands under its care, I would recommend they review their methodologies and engage in strategies with the larger Indigenous community to determine ways to meet the 2030 Agenda and its individual targets. In the past, the fake state, its institutions and agencies have not been sensitive to the culture of the people it exploits and prostitutes. As an institution of the colonial state, the University of Hawaii has been an active participant in the degradation of our women, lands, oceans, and culture. So I ask, is sustainable tourism possible if it relies on the exploitation of Indigenous people for consumption and economic value? If implementing tools and developing ways to guarantee jobs are filled and local culture and products are produced, then yes, the University of Hawaii has done this, providing scholarships to fresh out of school high school graduates as well as graduates with an associate's in hospitality in partnership with the Hawaii Tourism Authority. But I question if this is a sustainable measure intended to promote culture and Indigenous well-being. In fact, my position is that it does quite the opposite. And as a random but related fact, according to the North American Industry Classification System, tourism is not classified as an industry. However, the tourism sector consists of 5 tourism-intensive industries that make up 90% of all visitor expenditures. I recommend that the University of Hawaii do more than provide scholarships to our young women and men, Native Hawaiian women who will ultimately suffer the brunt of destructiveness, objectification, and dehumanization. In fact, according to a 2018 analysis by the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism entitled Native Hawaiians in Hawaii's Tourism Sector, Native Hawaiians are mostly found to occupy minimum wage positions in retail, food service, and entertainment. But if you want to, begin quote, Learn, work, and live in Hawaii, which is ranked among the safest, healthiest, and most diverse U.S. cities, and learn the business of hospitality and tourism in Waikiki, one of the world's top tourist destinations, end quote. And that's a quote from the School of Travel and Management Industry Management booklet. While simultaneously taking part in the degradation of culture in unsustainable ways, please take full advantage of the scholarship program. But the former statement is a fallacy. In the words of Auntie Haunaniki Trask, daily life for Native Hawaiians is neither soft nor kind. Here is where I find hope for the University of Hawaii and the larger Hawaii community. In fact, social justice programs and PhD programs like that at the Thompson School of Social Work and Public Health incorporate Indigenous methodologies to increase knowledge production and improve Native Hawaiian well-being. But I think the only way to meet this particular target of SDG 16 is to revitalize ancestral wisdom, which is already part of the mission of Hawaii Nui a Kea School of Hawaiian Knowledge. And if we look to history as our guide, we'll see that Hawaii sought justice, maintained peace, and established strong institutions and policies to ensure non-discriminatory laws. I recommend the University of Hawaii and its partner institutions continue to seek the knowledge of our kupuna to safeguard the collective rights of its Indigenous people according to the 2030 Agenda and its targets.